Here's a nightmare that still gets me scared when I think about moving to a new location. My family decided to buy a new house in the center of town. One weekend, we went house hunting and found just the right one. It was a big mansion on top of this big spooky hill adjacent to a graveyard. When my parents bought it, I was very excited and went straight back to the old house to get my stuff packed and ready to move. The next day, my dad and I went to the new place to see how much work we would have to do to the inside. Strangely, after looking around for a while, I thought I heard something coming from the basement. It sounded like music, but I was sure it was just from the neighbor's house and decided to ignore it as I followed my dad upstairs. I picked out one of the rooms toward the back of the house to be my very own. I was so happy. Suddenly, while looking in the closet of my new room, I felt a cold draft flow through my hair and clothing. I asked my dad if he felt that, and he said he didn't feel anything. Again, I simply shrugged it off, thinking it was just me. After we had checked out the entire place, we went outside and met my brother and mother in the driveway. They had all of our stuff in a trailer and were ready to move on in. We unpacked everything and were looking forward to spending our first night in the new place. Tired, all of us sat in the living room, drinking a soda and experiencing that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when you accomplish a great task. That's when I heard the music from the basement again. As before, I tried to ignore it. This time, however, the music didn't go away. It kept getting louder and louder. I started to freak out a little bit, which frightened my parents. My dad said he'd go down to the basement and show me that there was nothing there. I followed him down and discovered he was right. There was nothing in the basement but a damp smell and silence. Relieved, I decided to go to bed and get a good night's sleep. In the middle of the night, I was awakened by the same music I had heard earlier that day. I got up and went straight to my parents' room to wake up my dad. To my surprise, neither one of them were there. I ran into my brother's room and found he wasn't there either. I called out to them, but there was no answer. I was getting really scared. I ran downstairs, looking for my family. That's when I heard the music again. This time, it was extremely loud. I went into the kitchen and stood in front of the basement entrance. To my amazement, the music was so loud it was causing the basement door to shake and rattle. I thought I heard my dad's voice coming from behind the door. So, cautious but determined, I opened the door and descended the stairs to the basement. To my astonishment, I could see my parents, along with many people I had never seen before, dancing to the music of Rob Zombie. "What the hell?" I yelled out. I walked over to my parents and asked them what they were doing, but it was as if they couldn't hear me, like they were under some sort of mesmerizing magic spell. Suddenly, the music became even louder than before. It was hurting my ears. That's when everyone in the room, including my parents and my brother, stopped dancing. They turned to the basement walls, which were filled with hanging tools, and began grabbing anything they could find. The people were now wielding axes, knives, chainsaws, and even screwdrivers. They then faced one another and began to approach with this killer look in their eyes. My mother, holding an axe, proceeded to hack up my dad. I screamed at her to stop, but that just seemed to make her angry. She turned toward me, swinging the blood-covered axe high above her head. I tried to run away, but it was as if my legs weighed a ton. I just made it up the stairs when my mom grabbed my leg and flipped me around. She lifted the axe and swung it decidedly toward my stunned little head. The instant before the steel penetrated my skin, I woke up. This dream has repeated itself many times. Now I'm afraid to move anywhere. This nightmare is going to haunt me for the rest of my life.